When Jill spread rumors about her coworker's breast implants, she thought it was just another cruel joke. But what she didn't know was that those implants weren't about vanity. They were about survival. And when she tried to get her fired over it, well, let's just say karma came dressed in HR paperwork. If you've ever been underestimated, humiliated, or pushed too far, this story is going to hit home. So grab a coffee, hit that like button, and get ready for one of the most emotionally satisfying revenge stories you'll hear all week. 4 years ago, Emily was only 24 when her life shattered. Her mother had just passed away from breast cancer, the same disease that had taken both her grandmothers before her. Fearing she might be next, Emily went for a full screening. The results confirmed her worst nightmare. Her doctors found potentially cancerous cells in her breast tissue. The kind that could turn lethal at any moment. She was given 3 options. 1. Get screened every few months and wait for the inevitable. 2. Remove one breast and hope the other stayed healthy. 3. Or take the drastic step, a double mastectomy. Emily didn't hesitate. She'd already watched cancer rip through her family. She wasn't going to let it take her too. But the surgery came with a brutal price. Her chest was left covered in deep, jagged scars, angry pink reminders of what she'd lost. For months, she couldn't even look at herself in the mirror. The scars didn't just change her body, they shattered her confidence. She withdrew from friends, stopped leaving her apartment, and spent nights crying until she felt empty. Her therapist saw how broken she was and suggested something unusual, to consult a plastic surgeon. Not for vanity, but for healing. The surgeon offered a few options, and after failed creams and a risky laser procedure, Emily decided on breast implants, smaller than her original size, but enough to feel like herself again. And when she looked in the mirror afterward, for the first time in years, she didn't see scars. She saw strength, she saw survival. Her confidence returned, and with it, her life. By 28, Emily had rebuilt everything: a steady office job, new friends, and the quiet satisfaction of finally feeling normal again. But that peace was about to be shattered by someone who couldn't mind her own business. Her name was Jill, the kind of coworker who smiled to your face and gossiped behind your back, petty, loud, and utterly toxic. One afternoon, during lunch, Emily and an old friend were chatting about an upcoming vacation. The friend joked about flying with implants, and Jill, sitting just close enough to overhear, perked up like a vulture spotting roadkill. By the end of the day, the entire office knew. Jill had told everyone Emily had breast implants, leaving out the little detail that they existed because of cancer. Soon, the whispers began. The smirks, the cheap jokes, more plastic than Barbie, fake in 2 ways, a silicone sack. Some comments came directly from Jill. Others trickled down from people she'd poisoned with gossip. Emily tried to stay calm, to keep her dignity, but hearing your trauma turned into lunchtime entertainment. That kind of cruelty digs deep. She asked Jill, politely at first, to stop. But the bully always had a smirk ready. Oh, come on, don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. Except it wasn't. It never is. It happened over lunch. Emily, Jill, and a few coworkers sat at the same table when Emily made a casual remark, calling something shallow. Jill laughed, loud enough for the room to hear. You'd know all about being shallow, she said, gesturing at Emily's chest. Greater than the table went silent. Something inside Emily snapped. Months of humiliation, grief, and restraint burned away in an instant. She looked Jill dead in the eye and said, "Do you know why I have these? Because 4 years ago, doctors found cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I had both breasts removed to save my life. The scars broke me. I couldn't even stand to see myself. So yes, I got implants, not for vanity, but so I could finally look in the mirror and not cry. So next time you want to judge someone, maybe learn their story first." Greater than she stood up, grabbed her food, and walked out. Mic drop. Greater than half the office stared in shock. A few applauded quietly. Others mumbled that she'd gone too far. But Emily didn't care. For once, she'd stood up for herself. The next morning, an email from HR landed in her inbox. "We'd like to discuss a possible hostile work environment." Her stomach dropped. Jill had reported her. And the kicker, the HR representative assigned to the case was Debbie, Jill's best friend. Emily knew exactly how that would go. Greater than, but she wasn't about to go down without a fight. Greater than, she remembered her employee contract had a clause about impartial oversight. If she believed a reviewer was biased, she could request another. Emily photocopied that page, highlighted the line, and began preparing her defense. Greater than, then she reached out to her coworkers, the ones who had offered quiet support after the confrontation. She asked each one if they'd be willing to write a short statement, detailing every time they'd heard Jill insult her or make comments about her body. Greater than, by morning, she had 16 signed letters. Some even mentioned Jill's other insults, mocking people's weight, religion, and appearance. Greater than, armed with evidence, she walked into HR like a soldier going into battle. Debbie was waiting by her desk, ready to escort Emily into a private room. Emily stopped and looked her straight in the eye. "Actually," she said calmly, "my contract gives me the right to an impartial overseer. And considering you're Jill's friend, I'd like someone else to review this." Debbie froze. The room went quiet as the senior HR supervisor walked over. "Is that true?" he asked Debbie. Debbie stammered, "I can be impartial." But Emily simply handed him the highlighted contract page. The supervisor sighed, nodded, and assigned another HR representative to join them. Debbie's face turned pale. Her plan to quietly fire Emily had just imploded. What followed was over 30 minutes of questioning. "Why do you believe Jill reported you? How long has this been going on? Do you have any proof?" Emily kept her voice calm, her hands steady. She explained everything: the surgery, the harassment, the lunchroom confrontation. She handed over the 16 letters, her medical history, and the list of witnesses. "There are cameras in the lunchroom," she added. "They'll confirm exactly what was said." The supervisor leaned back, scanned the papers, and simply said, "We'll review the evidence. You'll be informed of our decision soon." Greater than, Emily walked back to her desk, shaking. She opened her CV, ready to start applying for new jobs. For hours, coworkers were quietly called into HR, one by one. First, the people who were there during the confrontation. Then the ones who'd written letters. Each returned looking relieved, or slightly smug. By late afternoon, only one person hadn't been called in: Jill. When she finally was, she stormed out of HR 30 minutes later, red-faced and furious. She glared at Emily from across the office, eyes burning with hate. Greater than, at 4:30, Jill was summoned again. And when the clock hit 5, the office watched as Jill packed up her desk in silence, muttering about fake people ruining lives. Greater than, the elevator doors closed behind her with a metallic click. Greater than, minutes later, an email pinged in Emily's inbox. "Your case is closed." Greater than, just like that, the bully who'd tormented her for months was gone. Emily sat there, hands trembling, not from fear this time, but relief. For so long, she'd carried the shame of her scars, the weight of others' judgment, and the fear of being small in a cruel world. But now, the tables had turned. Greater than, Jill had tried to weaponize Emily's trauma. Instead, she'd weaponized her own arrogance, and it backfired spectacularly. Greater than, it wasn't just revenge. It was redemption. Sometimes, the people who mock others the loudest are hiding from their own insecurities. And sometimes, life has a way of letting justice unfold in the quietest, most poetic way possible. Greater than, so the next time someone tries to humiliate you for what makes you different, remember Emily's story. Stand tall, and let karma do the rest. If that revenge felt as satisfying to you as it did to me, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most justified revenge you've ever seen? And of course, subscribe for more true Reddit revenge stories every week.